I'd say really when I got full into the community was when I went to the first Brick Fair Virginia in 2022 and meeting up with a lot of those people who I'd only been seeing in my phone and then realizing that, oh, you're actually real people. We just became such good friends that weekend that it was like, this is for real. We got to keep doing this. And just kind of, going to those conventions and seeing the people in person and meeting all different people, not just people who I had known online, but other people who are out there in the LEGO community, just kind of got me to be a part of it.
Hello everyone, and welcome to TFOL Talk, the podcast where we shine a light on awesome teen fans in the LEGO community doing amazing things, and maybe the occasional AFOL too. I'm Doodle Bricks, aka Kavi, and today we're going to be hanging out with Matticus, otherwise known as Matticus Bricks. How are you doing, man?
I am doing great. It is so good to be talking with you again, Doodle.
You too, man. I'm very much looking forward to this. So I'd say let's just hop into the first question, which is who is Matticus Bricks and what do you do in the LEGO world?
Well, I will start by saying thank you for inviting me to a TFOL Talks podcast.
Of course.
I'm definitely not a TFOL anymore. A nice flashback. It's been a good few years since I've been a teenager, but yeah. So to give you a little background on me, I started creating LEGO content on TikTok in early 2021 at my fiance, then girlfriend's urging, because she had been using TikTok and was like, you have all this LEGO stuff. Why don't you try to share it with the community? Oh. I had a couple of videos of my Avengers Tower that popped off, which really surprised me. And it was an original mock that I had created of the Avengers Tower. They've since made a LEGO set that's similar but different. But I just kept continuing to share my thing, to share the mocks that I was creating, to share what I was into about the LEGO hobby, and the account grew. I branched off into Instagram, YouTube, and just in the past couple of months, the end of last year, I was accepted into the LEGO Ambassador Network. Actually, the Matticus Bricks community joined the LEGO Ambassador Network, and I am the ambassador between that community and the LEGO group.
Dude, that is so exciting. Congratulations.
Thanks so much. It was something that early on when I started creating content, I knew could potentially be something that I would work towards, but I don't know. I think there's a little bit of that imposter syndrome that we all have as creators and professionals where it's like, am I actually good at this?
Yeah.
Is this something that I should try? And a couple of people that I talked to that were ambassadors said I should go for it, that my content fit the mold, and actually kind of expanded on it in a way, bringing my own original point of view to the land is something that they thought was worthwhile. And I decided to give it a shot, and they accepted me, and it's been a really incredible ride so far.
Oh, I'm glad to hear. No, I totally get what you mean about the creator imposter syndrome. Is am I really good enough to do this though? You start questioning right before you get there. It's but it's good to have those people who encourage you, yes, just do it. Trust me, because they have the outside opinion on you and your work,
And it's good. I spoke to people that are friends, people that I'm really close with, and I spoke to others that I'm getting closer with, and just people that I look up to in the community, and I'm I know that between these people that I'm talking to, they're going to be honest with me, and I could kind of get a read on whether this is something that I should go for. But I really don't have any regrets for where I've taken myself with my content thus far.
That's great, and I can imagine it's only going to go further.
I hope so.
All right, so I'd say the next question is, how and when did you actually get into LEGO in the first place?
I'm one of those, I've been into LEGO for life. I was born in the 90s, 94. So when I was starting to grow up as a kid, as one does,
You grew up as a kid? Oh, I thought you just started as an adult.
I came to LEGO because I went to the Disney Springs LEGO store with family and on a trip as a kid. Saw all the really cool stuff that was there. Fright Nights was the big thing at the time. And, I loved castles and magic and witches and everything like that. So I saw the potential at that early age, and I'm using big words for that, but I saw the potential to create worlds. It was a toy that could be whatever you wanted it to be. And it continued, even beyond the point in my life where it was a toy. That's why I stuck with it, because there's just endless potential. So I've been a fan since as soon as I was old enough to pick up the bricks and build.
I see. That is amazing. And have you ever had a dark age, or was there never a pause?
I would call it a gray age. So there's like that concept where, you don't go fully into the dark ages where, you don't touch your Lego at all. It was really like in high school where I had stuff in middle school. It was kind of like, is this cool? Do I want to keep this going? Like, is there time? There's other things that I was interested in. High school, yeah, I got distracted. I did other things. I wasn't buying Lego as much. Until I saw Lord of the Rings, which was towards the end of my high school career.
Ooh.
And I was like, I gotta get this, like, just because, like, why not? And I don't care what people are gonna think. I wish I had bought even more Lord of the Rings sets at the time.
Hindsight.
Yeah, hindsight's always 2020. But that kind of got me back into it. I was watching Harry Potter one day randomly when I was in college, and it was like, I used to have all these Harry Potter sets. I bet I could restore them. So I started digging through my old collection and putting my old Harry Potter sets back together. And
That's so
those
cool.
two activities, which kind of coincided with then the Lego movie coming out in 2014, that was just like a triple punch. Like Lord of the Rings, get back into the Harry Potter sets, and then the Lego movie. I was like, this is full blown. We're an AFOL again. Like, no more gray age.
Yeah, you were in too deep. It was like Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, and then the Lego movie. Get back into it.
It was like there's never been a better time to be an AFOL. And I had looked at all of the sets that were coming out, and I was like, these are wildly more detailed and intricate than what I had as a kid. And even now, it's funny looking back. The sets that we're getting today are wildly more intricate and more detailed than they were in 2014. So
Yeah.
It's just always getting better.
God, imagine like 20 years from now. Like I can't even imagine.
The Lego's gonna be in your mind.
It's gonna it's gonna be Neuralink Lego.
You're just gonna like no. I can't even imagine where it's gonna go from there. The designers are coming out with some crazy creative things these days.
They are. But no, that's really cool. It was really cool to hear you say that you had a gray age, because I like created a term for that a little while ago where like you're not out of it completely, but you're not fully in it either, which I always called like a dim age, and you're the first other person
like the dim age.
I've heard to like mention a kind of middle state like that before.
I've heard it called the gray age on like forums and
Really?
some of the AFOL people who will talk about that. But yeah, I think it works either one. I think you have the gray age, the dim age.
It's an interesting thing though, isn't it? It's like some of us don't fully like fall out of it. It's just we kind of like, we still appreciate it, but just kind of it's not the main thing going on for us.
Yeah, it's like you see that you have other priorities. Like being in high school, I think especially as a teenager, it's like you want to get a car, you've started a job, you want to talk to friends and,
Socialize, yeah.
Socialize. There's stuff to do. There's things going on. You're like working on college applications. You're thinking about what's next in your life. And it's like this toy I had as a kid, I a lot of the times what I did in high school for free time was I played video games and I watched anime. And that both of those activities, as I'm sure you know, are very time consuming. And when you're already like a full-time, high school student and you go home and you have homework, it's like you're tired, man. You just want to like throw on some anime, or you want to like kick back and play a game. And then the weekends you're doing stuff with your friends. You're going to movies. You're hanging out. You're palling around at the mall. That was a really weird old way to say that. Old man Matticus here. Yeah,
Nah,
but you know what
old.
I mean? Like there's just all of those social pressures, and there's other things where it's like, yeah, the Lego looks cool, and if I could get one here and there as a gift, it's not the full-blown hobby that you can make it later on.
Yeah, it's not the priority at that time.
Totally.
Exactly. I feel you, because for me, it happened around when I was like, it was only for really a year-ish, maybe two now that I think about it, but it was like, I still collected it and I still had it on display in my stuff there, but that was when I really got into like art and things like that, and I made like a whole new friend group, and none of them minded at all. I was very open about it, but I was just so focused on other things at the time that it just kind of didn't take priority, and then I think I kind of once again, I came back to it like around 2020, but it wasn't like, oh, I've discovered Lego again. It was more just like, oh, okay, I have time to do this again now. Like that kind of thing.
Exactly. It's like you get back into it. I think for me, it was looking online at like Flickr, Instagram, like places where people were showing pictures of their like mocks. And I was always a builder. I loved building things. And originally, before I even thought about being a content creator, I made my Instagram account in 2014, the Instagram account that I use now, but it wasn't until after TikTok that I grew it to the point where it is. I thought I was just going to like build really cool mocks and share them, and that was going to be it.
Right.
I saw what people were doing, and I was like, wow, this is more than just like me clicking a couple of bricks together as a kid. Like, there's really a lot of different wild techniques that you can use to make it's like art. So
Yes,
that's what really
exactly.
wanted to get me back into it.
Yeah, no, I feel you there. That's the one thing whenever like I'm describing Lego to someone who's like not into it, I always say that it's kind of become like an art form at this
It
point
is.
now.
I think it really should be. I mean, it's a full-fledged art medium. You do have like legitimate artists like Nathan Sawaya and what's the other guy? Is it Sean Kenny? Am I
Yes, it's
right?
Sean Kenny.
Sean Kenny, who are these incredible professional brick artists that build like legitimate. Have you ever seen any of their displays?
Yes, definitely. They're absolutely legendary. I have one of Sean Kenny's books, I think, that I've had for like years.
I went to the Art of the Brick when it was in Georgia in Atlanta exhibit, and if you ever have the chance, that's really it's immersive. You get to see like the life-size animal sculptures, and that it's funny because that stuff when I was a kid, like I would see like the big brick sculptures, and I was just like, it doesn't have any minifigures. I'm not that into it.
Right.
I can't play with it, so whatever. But as an adult, I can see like even if it's not something I'm primarily interested in, I do appreciate the ability to like take this small medium and turn it into something that is like it's art.
Definitely.
It's
I think I really like got a grasp on like the different, I guess, like styles of like artistic expression people create with it too when I because like when I got kind of like back fully into the Lego space, it was because of a competition called BioCup on Flickr.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, it's like for anybody who doesn't know, it's basically like the Bionicle CCBS whatever like building competition, and it's a very prestigious thing, and I think like the TTV channel made a video about it, and I was like, oh, that looks cool, I might as well join. And then that's kind of like where it started, but I saw all these people doing just like the most insane like character creature sculptures you've ever seen, and it was just like, wow, this is insane.
It's like, even for me as someone who doesn't like Bionicle, like seeing the stuff that they do for BioCup, I love it because they take Bionicle, they combine it with system bricks, they do these
Yeah.
just wild, insane builds that I just admire. Like I don't do as much of the character building as I do landscaping, plants, sculpture, things like that, architecture. But it's impressive, and you have some skill there with your figure building, so I
Thank you.
could totally see. You're welcome. I could see why that would be something that would appeal to you and draw you in.
Definitely, yeah. I'm like since like with my art generally, I'm also more focused on like characters and creatures. I think that's probably why I'm more drawn to that with the builds as well. But I really want to start practicing doing like terrain and stuff because I really want to be able to like create scenes and things like that.
Well, listen, I got a proposition for you. I have a little collaboration called Enchanted Forest, and
Ooh.
it's all about terrain and landscaping and trees. Trees are a must, but I'm not a creature builder. We have Lego Master Builder Joey and Ethan the Artisan who do really great creatures. We would love to have some more creature builds in the Enchanted Forest,
Dude,
so
that would be
just throwing it
amazing.
out there.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Thank you. You guys won an award with that at Atlanta BrickCon, didn't you?
Yes, I have it. Oh, and here I am just realizing that this is not a video podcast.
Don't
So
worry,
there's
he's
no
holding
point,
up he's holding
there's
up the
no point in
award.
me showing it.
There'll be a picture on screen.
This is the award for best small layout, which technically it went to my original build for Love in the Enchanted Forest, which you did get to see. It was displayed
Yeah.
at Virginia. But this is an award win for the whole layout. I'm considering I'm holding it as group organizer.
Yeah.
But this is an award for our collaboration for the Enchanted Forest.
Yeah, no, it was really cool to see, like, I guess each person's different building style, but how it, like,
Yep.
meshed together very well with the whole thematics and just
Thanks.
everybody was very much in tune with that, I feel.
It worked really well, and I was honestly like looking at Atlanta BrickCon as sort of a soft launch. It was last minute, like, talking to the guys, like, what's to build something for this? Like, I know we had vaguely said we want to do a collaboration. And they were like, yeah, I'll come up with something. And it was 7 of us, 7 builders who displayed at Atlanta, and until the last minute, I was a little bit nervous. Like, how is this going to come together? Like, are we going to have enough space to fill our table? Is it going to be impressive? Is it going to look good? And I think it ended up really good. But I never expected to win an award based off of that first time displaying it. So I'm hoping that at the several conventions we're going to this year, we're going to bring in more builders. Each of us are going to be building more things. We want it to end up feeling like this really full, lush, lived-in fantasy forest. And I'm hoping that it starts to get to that feeling.
I really love that goal. That's amazing. Question, are you going to try to like in the future make it kind of something where like all the builds connect to each other, or is it going to be more like separate builds kind of
It's
all congregated together?
I think that'd be difficult just because of the way I conceived it. We use like freeform landscaping.
Right.
So if you see some of the builds that we've done, it's all like that sort of jagged edge. Like my envisioning is just as if some big giant scooped its hands into the earth and picked
Ah.
up like chunks of the forest, and then you just kind of plopped them down on a table together so that you can see different like excerpts from a whole forest.
Yeah, I
I
like
think it would
that.
be difficult to then actually have things connect and integrate, but I do want there to be certain factors and details from the different builds to sort of tie it all together so it does feel like that integrated landscape.
I think that makes sense, honestly, because something that's as like I guess loose as like nature builds is very
Yeah.
hard to like connect modularly with multiple different builders.
Right, like what you would have to do, and I've seen people do some incredible builds like this. You would have to have everything on base plates and have it like literally Mill's modular integrated landscaping system. Have them connected together with like Tectic pins, and that works really well for a city because the city kind of works like a grid anyway.
Yeah.
I feel like if we did them on your traditional base plates, it would distract from the natural style of the build. I would hate to just see like a big square plate that
Right.
looks, like I what drew me to it was that freeform landscaping, that natural look of it.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very smart choice for that, definitely. And I like the idea that you said if it's like kind of the picture of like a giant just scooping out pieces of this world that you kind of get a peek into. I really like that.
Yeah, be totally random idea, but it'd be kind of fun if someone knew how to build that giant out of Lego, and we could like have him like looking
Right.
over. That'd be kind of cool.
Could be like the one centerpiece build, like a really giant, just like grabbing one of the bits. That would be so cool.
Have some story to it. Oh, maybe someday. I think that this build will only continue to grow and expand.
Absolutely. So you mentioned you started creating content on, like you started with the Instagram account, but your whole Lego career really started with TikTok. But how did
Yep.
you actually end up joining the online Lego community? How did that happen?
Yeah, so it's kind of funny. When I was encouraged to get started with TikTok videos, I just went on to the search bar and searched Lego. And one of the first videos I saw was by Ethan the Artisan. And then I found
Hey.
Matt Mellish, Epic Bricks, Bricking Up Brad, Cool Guy Dom. And they will tell you all the various stories of how we all felt about each other at first. But I think enemies to friends is one of the best story arcs that characters can go on. I wouldn't say that we were enemies. It's just that,
Yeah.
before getting to meet somebody in person, you don't know if you like them or what their vibe is like and how and who they are.
Right.
So I feel like really getting inducted to the community happened when, after I had just been posting for a while, I did start to talk to other people through TikTok that were also making videos and were creating. And, we were all I felt like there was a group of us that were on the road to 10K together, where it was like, oh, who's going to get to 10,000 followers on TikTok first? And we were giving each other pointers and talking about, yeah, how often do you make videos? What kind of videos do you make? How do you see yourself growing? How serious are you? Is this just for fun? Are you trying to be a creator? And I always knew, I didn't, I don't want to say I wanted to become an influencer, but I always had this idea that I would become at least to the point where I can do pretty much what I'm doing now, where I can speak with a global community and get to do really cool events like that.
Have a platform of some sort, right?
Have a platform to, yeah, just to share and to be able to connect with people and to be like, hey, this is what's going on in my Lego world. Join me if you want to. And I got invited to an episode of the Stud Buds at the time, which was running, which was
Right.
Matt Mellish, Ethan the Artisan, Breaking Up Brad, and Block Studios. And they had me on their show. And I was like, oh my God, I'm with like Lego TikTok celebrities as like a guest. And they were like, yeah, if you think that being on our show is making it, you gotta rethink that. But they were awesome, and those guys became good friends of mine. We ended up doing, I'd say really when I got full into the community was when I went to the first Virginia, Brick Fair, Virginia in 2022. And meeting up with a lot of those people who I'd only been seeing in my phone, and then realizing that, oh, you're actually real people. We just became such good friends that weekend that it was like, this is for real. We got to keep doing this. And it's continued all of last year. I went to a bunch of conventions. I was just hanging out with Dom and Joey and Swole Bricks, Bryce, over this past weekend, and it was an awesome time. and just kind of, you know, going to those conventions and seeing the people in person and meeting all different people, not just people who I had known online, but other people who are out there in the Lego community, just kind of got me to be a part of it.
Right. No, exactly. It's really amazing that like I guess the feeling of like meeting somebody in person who you've just known online. It's great to have that like I guess more human connection since you can be in the same space and to just be able to like casually be around each other without having to constantly talk like you would online. Like online you're not really hanging out casually with each other. It's just an intentional conversation usually. So to be able to just
Yeah.
be in the same space as people like that you've known for a little while and like been friends with and collaborated with is such like a crazy experience.
Right. You get that sort of like ongoing conversation like over text, and you're like, I don't know like what this person's like. You know, you might have like phone calls once in a while or like a Zoom or a FaceTime or something, but then actually getting to see them in person and like, you know, you don't, you know, what's funny is that you don't like have lunch with someone over the internet.
No.
Like, I know that sounds silly, but like,
I like
you don't
that.
just, you don't just like, you know, hey, let's go grab a coffee. I mean, when you're good friends with someone, maybe, you know, I do have friends that I'm like, hey, let's have a coffee and a chat. But until you're like, okay, we're spending the entire day together at this convention, we need to go grab food. Like, let's just go sit and talk. And like, that's where you really start to build those bonds, I think, is when you have those like regular things like, oh, we got to run to Walmart and do some shopping for some equipment that we need. Let's go take a walk around and look at these mocks, and you have those conversations. It's like that's where you really start to connect with somebody.
Right. It really is the little things, isn't it?
It is. It really is. Not to mention like living in a house with a group of them for like 4 or 5 days or a weekend.
Right.
Like, you know, like getting an Airbnb, getting a hotel, like doing all that stuff where you have to share the same living space. You really get to know somebody then. I'll tell you.
Exactly.
That's where you really start to build those bonds, and then that's how community forms.
Absolutely. No, I agree. And I find it funny what you said about like you don't have like lunch over the internet. And you're right. Like I
Right.
never thought about it that way, but you really do make a good point there. With VR coming though, that might change.
Hey,
But
virtual holographic meatloaf, plankton style, just like SpongeBob.
literally we're becoming the amazing digital circus with our digital food.
Absolutely. Yep. Yep. Fake. You can't see, but right now I'm like pretending to like spoon food into my mouth.
I love this low poly steak so much. All right. Let's see. So, where are you most prevalent in the Lego community now? Because I know it was TikTok before, but I'm
Yep.
aware that things have kind of changed over the years.
Things have massively changed on TikTok. I still post there, but I felt like I had community there at one point, and things have kind of like simmered down a bit. A lot of the people who I know are on Instagram. I feel like Instagram is the big like a sort of hub for Lego influencers, not just influencers, for Lego community, for the lugs, the Lego user groups out there use Instagram to share their stuff. There's a ton of people who are content creators at all different levels who do community challenges, and people who I've met up with in person. That it's just like Instagram seems to be a really big hub. You have the stories. I think the platform is more user friendly for actually seeing people that you interact with. Every time I open up TikTok, the For You page it's a mess, honestly. I don't see anything that is I feel is relevant to me on my For You page anymore. I feel like it's just there's no longevity with like staying in touch with a creator on TikTok
see.
unless they're like a really really big creator. And there are some awesome, like there are people that I follow on TikTok that I think are great, but they're they're actually famous. They're not like me playing with Lego in my basement. So Instagram is really where it's at. I have been making an effort to do a little bit more with YouTube, and I keep saying this, but I am going to get some more long form YouTube videos out and hoping that I can grow on that platform. But Instagram is still kind of the main place where I'm at.
Nice. I see what you're saying there as well, because Instagram is kind of like the jack of all trades, I guess, of social
Yeah.
media. It's kind of like they've gotten very good at taking the bits that work from other platforms, so it's kind of a good place for everyone to come because you can do short form, you can do longer form, you can just
Yep.
post pictures of your builds or just stories, whatever it be, and it is a pretty good central hub, and then you can find other people doing things on other platforms from there, kind of.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's honestly a lot of people do use it to launch like, oh, hey, I'm also on YouTube, or hey, I stream on Twitch, or I don't know, I'm on Twitter. I run a podcast you can listen to on Spotify. I have a
Yeah.
Facebook account. I use some obscure, follow me on Be Real. I don't know. Like
Lego
you
Be Real.
Lego Be Real, honestly. That could be kind of fun.
Somebody needs to do that, like make an account where it's the minifigure doing the B-reel each time.
That would be funny.
That would. Oh man, but no, I get what you're saying. Absolutely. So Instagram's kind of become the main thing for you now.
Pretty much, pretty much. And I like it. I feel comfortable there. I feel like I've hit a flow. I feel like I actually reach people more in a different way on Instagram. So
Yeah,
that's great.
I get that. No, that makes sense. So you are a very big Castle fan, and I'm
right.
curious, what are your thoughts on kind of like the kind of, I guess, semi-return of the general castle genre in Lego in more recent years? And do you think, like, what we've been getting so far with kind of different castle-related things and all sorts of different themes and different releases good? Or do you think we kind of need a specific castle theme still?
Yeah, that's quite a topic of discussion. I don't necessarily want to say that there's never been a better time to be a Castle fan, because I think the best time to be a Castle fan was like back in the early 90s,
Yeah.
when you have like Dragon Masters, Royal Knights, Dark Forest. Like, to me, early to mid 90s is like the golden age for Lego. Other people would probably say the golden age is like, I don't know, the 80s. But when I was a kid, we had some dedicated castle themes. There was Knight's Kingdom, the original Knight's Kingdom, which I really liked.
I love it.
I grew up with, and that was cool. But I also still would look at the older stuff and be like, yeah, that older stuff was better. Like, we need Forestman, we need more. It was a short-lived castle theme. I think there were only 5 or 6 sets, minus all of the random small ones that some were exclusive, some were polybags. That you never found those as a kid. I feel like today you can find polybag sets at every Target or Walmart or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I never found the small polybag sets as a kid. But then there was Knight's Kingdom 2, which was really weird.
I
And
love it.
it's cool. Listen, I had every set because I had to have every
Really?
castle set. I did.
Oh.
There may have been 1 or 2 that I missed, but that was right like my golden age of being a Lego fan, where other kids were like into Star Wars. I wanted all the Knight's Kingdom sets.
Right.
We had the fantasy era castle theme. I guess there weren't a whole lot of gaps, but there were many years where like there was a castle theme, there wasn't a castle theme, and I honestly, if you ask me, after the fantasy era, most of the castle themes are kind of garbage.
Yeah. Like which ones?
Like the ones that I don't even know what they were called, because they were just called Castle. There were two. There were two that were just called Castle, and they had the red and white Lion Knights,
Right.
which
Yeah.
they were going against the Dragon Knights, and then there was I don't even
Insulting
remember.
Brad's favorite class, or what's it, like, faction?
It's a cool faction. He is a cool faction. And then I'm gonna
Yeah.
insult my friend Ben even more, like with the Red Dragon Knights. That to me was like the worst defender. They had the Blue Lion Knight,
Right.
the Crown Knights or whatever.
Yeah.
And then it was very juniorized. You had your big pre-molded dragons, big parts, I don't know. I
Fair
wasn't
enough.
a fan. It's very like bright and colorful castle. Lord of the Rings was your more, and I don't want to say that Lord of the Rings was a castle theme necessarily.
Yeah.
Because it's like, it's fantasy, it's medieval-esque, but it doesn't have a lot of those hallmarks of like the older Lego castle stuff. So there was a period where you didn't have like great castle that to me felt like what I thought of as castle. And then we had the 90th anniversary Lion Knights Castle, which is an incredible return to form. It's almost
Oh, yeah.
like the fully realized vision of what Lego Castle should and could be. I think it's the best. Yeah, I'll go out there and say it's the best Lego Castle that's ever been made. It's incredible, and it is a little bit pricey. So I think maybe there's the argument for like there's a lot of castle set options, but there's not anything that's like small and in the more affordable range.
Right.
So
Definitely.
I don't know. I think that I personally am really happy with everything that's out. I don't think that we have need for a full theme, because I don't know that there's anybody who's like, out there, like kids, I mean, who are clamoring for Lego castle sets. A lot of the fandom is older, is people who want the more like collectible. I think that if we had a Lego castle theme, you'd end up with sets like that. The themes I just mentioned that I didn't like, where the builds were simple, where they're or like the 3-in-1 creator castle, where I don't think that castle looked particularly good.
Yeah.
They have great minifigures. I think it ended up being a situation where you just buy the sets for the minifigures and then build your own castles. Like, I like that the sets that we're getting are beautiful and ready to go on a display shelf right away, even if you're paying a little bit more for them and if they're fewer and far in between.
Yeah, that's fair. I get what you're saying there. Like, I do wonder, like, I've heard different people say different things about, like, oh, if they did, X theme now, people wouldn't like it because, like, say with Castle, like, oh, it's not as popular with kids anymore. I do wonder that, like, if it's a case of it's not, according to people, it's not as popular because I guess, views on the genre have changed with younger people, or if it's because it's just not being put out with Lego specifically anymore. So like they're not seeing it, therefore there's no demand for it because they're not seeing it, you know?
That's true. That's true. I mean, I think back to a lot of like the sets that they had in their sort of early age, where they had the city town, theme, castle, space, pirates. They did western at one point. Like those are all kind of like those old tried and true, like kids growing up back in like the last century.
Right.
Not to date myself but even people older than me, that's what they played with. It was like, let's play western, like they would cowboys and Indians. We don't use that phrase anymore, but that was what they was like a genre of what you played with. Or like the little green army men. Lego never did anything with army. But like castle, like you'd play with your knights, you'd play with your firemen and your policemen. Kids still play with firemen and policemen. To give you actually a really fun story, the other day we were at one of the retail shops, one of the secondhand stores. I can't remember which one because we went to a couple. But there was this little kid who came in with his dad, and he went to the build a minifigure, and he wanted to build a policeman because he had lost the policeman from whatever car or set that he had. And the kid was so cute. He was like, yeah, I got my little policeman. I helped him pick out like a torso that like I was like, oh, here's one that would be good for a police officer. So there are certain like, I guess, concepts like that still have stayed tried and true. Like Lego has never stopped doing a city theme. City's been around forever.
There's always been some incarnation of it, yeah.
Because like you said, like we live in a modern era where we have cities and towns. Like that stuff never goes away. You see fire trucks, you see vehicles. I like that recently they've branched out beyond just like the rescue side, where in like the 80s, 90s, even when I was a kid especially, city was entirely like police, Coast Guard, firefighters. It was never like I never had any buildings for them to protect, or there was never a Lego City to protect. Lego City was just a bunch of like first responders and police officers, which is great. Lego City. Listen, if anything went down in Lego City as a kid, they were gonna handle it, but there was no city to protect. Now they have the houses and the apartment buildings and the shopping malls and the really cool stuff like that. I went off on a major tangent. What was I talking about?
No,
castle.
It's good though. It's good. That's the whole point of this. But yes, the castle.
My point is to say, I think with castle and pirates, there's not a whole lot of castle and pirate media that is appealing to kids today. Like
really,
kids play Fortnite. What else are kids do? I mean, they like Ninjago. That's like a built-in thing.
True.
With Lego.
I think ninja and like Japanese or like Asian-inspired themes are still pretty popular nowadays. And
well, like anime, like a lot of kids watch anime. I guess there'd be a crazy issue with licensing and making sure it was accurate, and also keeping things like within brand values. But I am really surprised that Lego hasn't tapped into anime at all.
Yeah, there's definitely like a good handful of ones that they could do that would line up with stuff they've done before, that like ones that still stay pretty tame, that I think they could absolutely do.
I think a Sanrio theme would do incredibly well, but I don't know if there's like there might be a licensing, there might be another building brand that has it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't even know what
I think it's a licensing issue probably. I imagine it's difficult, as well as like there's also most anime has at least something in it that doesn't quite line up. That's a little bit hard for, I guess, Lego to justify doing, just in the even if they're not making it, just in the content itself. So it's probably difficult with all those different factors.
There's like, I would love to say, like, I'm a big One Piece fan. Like, One Piece is my favorite anime. Yeah. I'm super not cut up, so don't ask me anything about what's going on right now.
I know nothing.
I'm like 200 or 300 episodes behind. But I think they could just make the ship, like the Thousand Sunny.
Yeah.
Put the crew on there. It'd be awesome. It's a pirate ship. Lego does pirate ships. It's a pirate show. I guess there's some suggestive and violent stuff that happens in the show, but like One Piece is still relatively like kids watch One Piece. Like
yeah,
they've
done stuff in the past that has things like that. Like Stranger Things has plenty of suggestive and violent stuff. And
Stranger Things literally has a meat monster made of dead bodies. Like. I don't know how you can then say that, right? Like Stranger Things has a lot of stuff going on that is violent and scary and weird, but also is something that kids can watch in a way. Like I don't know. I think Stranger Things it's like a perfect TV show. I love Stranger Things.
Yeah, I haven't seen it, but like I've seen the love it has. That's for sure.
You gotta watch it. It's so worth it.
Eventually. But yeah, no, I think as well, like what you touched on there about like just making the ship or something, they could do just like a subline of the Icon series, which is just different iconic locations or
Right.
vehicles or whatever from different anime, but they don't
Or
have
make
to
it
commit to doing the entire show and then potentially going into those topics that they don't want to touch. You know, they can be very
right.
selective.
Make it an 18 plus theme. Like they just released the Dungeons and Dragons. I'm sure that
Oh,
Dungeons and Dragons has all kinds of implications for all different levels. You know that if Lego made a Dungeons and Dragons set in the 80s, they would have been in serious problems. Like
right.
it was so controversial, the satanic panic that went along with Dungeons and Dragons
Yeah.
back in the 80s. But look at it now. Like it's just we look at it as a game that nerds play, and they can make a Lego set that has a really cool dragon and all these creatures and stuff. I
Exactly.
don't see why they can't do something like that with like a One Piece set or
Totally.
something from Naruto. I don't watch Naruto. I don't know what Naruto does. He's a
Yeah. They're
ninja.
ninja.
He's a ninja. Perfect. Like I'm sure that there's other types of things that they could do that would draw in that audience.
Absolutely. Speaking of the Dungeons and Dragons set, so at the time of this being recorded, the set was just revealed yesterday, I'm
That's
pretty
right.
sure. What are your thoughts on it?
I, you know, I have mixed feelings. I looked at it, and being a mock builder, I feel like there are certain like design choices where this could have been more detailed. Like it does sort of feel like an upscaled playset, but it also kind of is a big playset because it comes with a campaign.
That's so cool. I didn't realize that.
I know it does. It's on like the back of the box. Someone showed that it comes with a campaign that you could actually play if you know how to play Dungeons and Dragons. I've never played D&D. It was a foreign language to me, so I
Yeah.
don't know. Totally. I love the aesthetic of like the fantasy though. I think getting more fantasy creatures is cool. It's just a cool model. Like I feel like I'd be more hyped about like, oh, I gotta buy this if either, I mean, obviously if I played and I knew what dungeons, if I knew what it was referencing, if it was at a better price point,
Yeah.
and if there was stuff that was more like tangibly attached to stuff I'm familiar with. Otherwise, it's cool to have just like a general fantasy type of theme. The problem I think with me is I'd probably just use the pieces to build something for my Enchanted Forest collab or like the minifigures. I wouldn't want to keep it as a set. But it is really cool, and I think it goes with like a lot of the stuff, like the Rivendell, like Lord of the Rings, like
Yeah.
the 90th anniversary castle, the medieval village. Like it goes with a lot of that stuff. Even like Snow White's cottage, which is an incredible set. Like it does kind of go with that sort of fantasy
It does.
medieval setting really well.
No, I see what you're saying. I like that totally makes sense. I don't really know too much about D&D yet just because I haven't been able to find anybody dedicated enough to learn it with me. I'm like, I have
Yeah.
the starter set and everyone's like that looks cool, but like that's complicated. So I haven't gotten around
Yep.
to it yet, but no, like I know a bit about it, like the general knowledge, and it seems pretty faithful with like the creatures, and I love that they
Yeah.
put a campaign in because I think a lot of people, including myself, were like, it's a cool model that like they ended up choosing,
Right.
but why isn't it like game pieces that you can move around and create different dungeons and stuff with?
So, well, yeah, so you can actually, it's modular, so you can
Right.
take apart the different pieces, and then, like, that kind of looks more like a game board, I guess. Like, they have the dungeon section, they have the, I don't know what else there is besides the dungeon and a dragon. There's a castle,
Yeah, a castle,
there's a
yeah.
tavern, there's,
Right.
like, the meadow that has, like, the tree guy that's coming to life. Like, that's cool. I feel like they packed a lot of different scenes into one build, and on the one hand, while you get a lot for within that model, it also kind of like cheapens and lessens the detail that you can put into each of those builds. Like the tavern is a tiny little room.
It is.
The what could be like a whole forest is just a tiny little corner. The dungeon is like a tiny little room that's mostly taken up by a staircase. So I think that there's, to me, I don't know if I'm baffled by the price.
Oh, me too.
There must be some tax or like a fee or licensing that comes in with getting it to be Dungeons and
I
Dragons.
guess. Because I agree. I looked at that and I thought, oh, so I could see it like maybe just scraping like the $200 mark. It looks like it's decently sized. There's a lot of new things in it. And then like, what is it, 300 and
It's
something?
360. I think 300 would probably be like top tier, like pushing it. Like it's
Yeah.
3,700 pieces, which is great, But
Yeah, but that's
360. What are we
way
talking
too
about here?
much.
It's beautiful, but I don't know.
I agree. I think the price is the biggest like downside for me personally, but I really like that they managed to fit some kind of like campaign into it though,
Yeah.
because that's what I felt like was missing. It's like, well, Dungeons and Dragons is about the campaign, and I know they
Yep.
wanted to make it like enjoyable for people who weren't necessarily just D&D fans, so
Yep.
it seems like they found like a good middle point with that. And I like the minifigures and all those different aspects of it. I feel like the campaign should have been included in the set for that price. That's the thing.
Oh, I think the campaign is free.
Oh, is it? I thought you
I
had to
think
buy
so.
it separately on
Oh, I don't
Lego.com.
know. I'm not sure. Maybe I didn't read my press release. Um, I think that you can download it. I don't.
Okay.
To be clear, I was not given or offered the set through the Ambassador Network.
Yeah.
D&D isn't really super relevant to me. I do like fantasy, but I didn't get the set, so to be honest, I don't know that much about it. I'm only just seeing the pictures now as they've been revealed.
That's fair.
But I do think that there is. I do think it's like a free download to like what the campaign is.
Okay. I
I
thought
don't
it was a
know.
book that you bought separately. I don't know. I've heard a few
Maybe
different things.
I also don't know how a D&D campaign even works. Is it a story? Is it I don't know. Is it going to take me like
I don't
a
know.
couple weeks to play it? I really don't know. I'm assuming they use the minifigures as like the game pieces.
Yeah.
Um,
They got to.
but yeah, I don't know. I could have definitely seen it at a different price point. Another thing, I love the dragon. Like I wish I didn't have to buy the whole set to get the dragon.
Yeah, it's gorgeous, isn't it?
Yeah, like I think that there's a lot here that would be appealing to fantasy fans or people who think, "Wow, this is a really cool model." But I also think it's a really steep price for someone to get into it if they're not a Dungeons and Dragons fan. Like it's there's Lego sets that like, "Oh, this is like I don't know, like let's say like when they had the Friends Central Perk set, $60. It's a really cool little coffee shop.
Right.
I don't know. I'm not sure if anybody bought that set who didn't watch Friends, but
Yeah.
it's a different entry level where it's like, oh, I want this little cute coffee shop diorama. Maybe I'll just swap out the minifigures and make it like a different kind of coffee shop. Or like the Queer Eye set, like that was $100. Like, oh, this is just a really cool studio apartment. I've never watched the show, but I like it for what it is. Like this is a bigger barrier for entry where it's like 360 is it's quite an investment
Yeah, I
if you're
definitely
not that
agree with
into
you.
it.
Definitely. And I think that kind of leads us into one of the next questions I had, which was I remember I heard you say that you got into Lego from getting like a little battle pack of like
I
the castle figures like from Fright Nights, I think you said,
Yeah,
yeah?
I did. I got the Fright Nights Battle Pack. I have it actually sealed in box. I got it from Atlanta Brick Co. last year.
No way.
It's in my display case. It's like priceless to me now. But yeah, I do have that back. It's like my very first Lego set. I have
That's
an original version of
amazing.
it. But yeah, it was just minifigures, and I built like the knights and the witch, and I was like, oh my god, that's so cool! Like you can act out little scenes, and that's what I liked about Lego was that ability to tell story through play.
Right, exactly. So you got into it from a small set, and I think most of us probably did get into it originally from getting a little affordable set for, say, a birthday, or just getting it from the store, or seeing something out and just like getting it. So my question to you is, do you think they're doing enough small sets of that price to kind of still keep people coming into it, and I guess keeping like that kind of like entry level thing there, or do you think that they could improve with that more?
It's tough. I will say that, like I mentioned this before, that I see a ton more of the polybag sets on shelves than I did when I was a kid. And for $4.99, you get a minifigure or two, you get a small build, and they have them for just about every theme. And I think that's an awesome little. They put them in like the checkouts at stores. Awesome little impulse buy. You know, you're a parent at a store with your kid. Oh, you've been good at the store. Let's get you a little treat. Here's a little something. And I think that's really cool. But other than that, like you're right. There's a lot of the sets that we're seeing. Like when I was a kid, we used to have like $7.99, $8.99 sets, maybe $10. A $15 set was a little bit bigger. You don't see too many sets for under $20 these days. And
Yeah.
typically, you're like sets that I think would have been like a $20 set when I was a kid are looking at more like $30 today.
Right.
There's not as many like cheap options like for a kid to just get a couple of minifigures and a small build for allowance money for $8 to $10. It's not there anymore.
No, I definitely agree with you there, because like I saw an example the other day of like some older sets for what they like originally retailed for, and I do think the poly bags are like definitely good, and I think poly bags have been getting better recently, but I still feel like there's like a psychological difference, at least there is for me, getting a little thing in a bag versus just a small set. Something about that feels a little bit more like special, I think. And
Right.
you also get a little bit more of like a substantial build to go with it, so you have, I guess, kids would have more playability with it, and I feel like there's like a point to be made there about like maybe there being a bit of a difference.
Yeah, I've seen so many of the vintage like sets that are in boxes, like a small box set that I know would have been in a poly bag today, like that
Mm.
at that size. And they used to do a lot more of those. They would have a ton of those small sets for like the space theme, especially. There's a bunch of little, like dozens of tiny little space sets that was just like a little dude on a speeder. Sometimes he had a robot. Like it was really fun. You had everything you
Yeah.
needed right out the box to start having adventures.
Definitely. I do think I feel personally that like maybe I feel like they could get better with that and putting a little bit more substantial stuff in the sets, but I will say I do feel like they have started to get better with that because I was in the Lego store in Leicester Square recently when I was in the UK, and when I was looking around there with my friend, I did actually notice a lot more smaller boxed sets for about, I guess, what would come to about like $10. Like there's a Spider-Man one with like a little motorbike and Doctor Octopus, and there were a lot of other ones that I noticed, and I was like, oh, it looks like, and they were just little small boxed sets, and I was like, it feels like they're kind of returning to form with that, and this is something that feels like it would be substantial enough for a kid to get, but still have enough play value out of it, rather than just a very small few pieces in a poly bag, you know?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. That there are some that are, getting better. What were some of the themes that you noticed? Like what were some that stood out to you that had that going on?
The only ones I can remember currently were Marvel. I think there were maybe a few DC ones, and I think City as well. City had some substantial small sets.
City does usually. And then another one I've noticed is Friends. Friends has
Yes.
been really good at getting a lot of variety. So yeah, Friends has been good with that. I guess like for like the themes that are more like stuff that people would be into like collecting, like the cheapest Animal Crossing set is $20.
Mm.
Oh no, I'm sorry, 15. There is a $15 Animal Crossing
Okay.
set. The Animal Crossing sets I think are at incredible price points. I think they've been awesome. But there's potential there for more. Friends, like I said, has been good. The other thing that I have noticed though is that if you are lucky enough to live in your Lego store, they have the pick a brick wall, and then they
Right.
have the build a minifigure where you can just go in and get bricks and minifigures for a reasonable price just to get started playing that way, and you don't even have to be restrained to what comes in a set.
True. You make a really good point there. I didn't think about that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like, and then you pick up a base plate, you go into the pick a brick wall, and you get some minifigures, and all of that would be around $40, maybe 35. But like, look at that. That's between 30 to $40, and you can right away give your kid a base plate, a couple minifigs, bunch of bricks, go at it and build. And that could be a really fun way to get them started.
Exactly. I think another thing that would be great that if they phase back in is kind of the alt builds on the backs of boxes for different themes.
Yes.
That would be. I think they've done that a little bit more recently, but they could do it more because those are great. Because then it
I
feels like
think
you get multiple toys in one as well.
Absolutely. The issue with those, and the big issue, is that they would almost have to provide building instructions. Like back in the day, they never provided the building instructions for the alternate models. It was just like,
Oh.
yeah, I don't know if you realize, but they would have the designer like, here's the set, we're building instructions, and on the box it would always say instructions included for main model as like a little,
Ah.
but they would show you ideas. They would say, hey, designers, build something different with this, and we'll take pictures. And we'll show it on the back of the boxes. Like, you could build something like this. It was more like a suggestion. I
Right.
think if they did that today, there would be the expectation, like, no, my kid wants to build this. Give me the instructions, and it would cause a whole can of worms if they didn't
True.
provide instructions. So that's why they have the Creator 3-in-1 sets, which I think are great, where you can get a
Yeah.
couple of alternate models, and that is all included.
You're right, and those have stepped up a lot in more recent years. Like originally, I wasn't huge on creator sets. I always find them kind of bland, but recently, like
Yeah.
most of the models tend to be quite solid and like really cool.
I think they've been really good. Especially this year, they have like the roller skate, the ukulele. One of my big sets I must get this year is the fox. That red fox
Yes.
set is really good.
It really is. No, I agree. It does seem like I'm glad that Creator 3-in-1 is stepping up their game with all the different designs and doing more like also affordable ones because like the ukulele, this roller skate, those ones are all pretty small but still really substantial builds, and it's nice to
Absolutely.
see that there's that option as well for people to have or kids to have those different alternate builds that do feel like something that could be a main model as well.
Yeah, for real. Each one of those builds that come in, then that they're a main model in their own right, but it's just, it gives you an alternate way to it extends the playability for your set. It's not just I built this, I put it on a shelf, I'm done. It's like, no, I like this model, I'm gonna try something else this week. So
Exactly, exactly. So, as you said before, you were once a TFOL, but I'm wondering what was your experience what like being one like? Did you ever face any like difficulty with people say like making fun of you for liking Lego as a teen, or what was just your general experience of it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think back. I don't ever recall a time that anybody made fun of me. I think a lot of my judgment was more like internal, was the feeling of like, oh, is this really normal for me to be doing this at this age? I definitely remember like as I had a good friend that I was into Lego with at the time, and he sort of grew out of it quicker than I did. So that was more like middle school was kind of the time where
Mm.
I guess I felt more judgment. I didn't like live in such a way where I was like broadcasting to the whole world, "Hey, I love Lego." Like, it was just kind of like I was into it. I don't think I cared too much what people thought. I just started to have fewer people to share it with, and then I kind of lost my own interest in high school and did other things. When I got back into it, when I was more like at the end of my high school time and like going into college, and I was still like a late teen, that was it where I was a little bit more worried. Like, oh, are people gonna like question why I'm spending my money on like Lord of the Rings Lego sets. So or even just like the judgment, like being in like the Lego aisle, or we had Toys R Us was still around at the time. Like, I'm gonna be shopping in this aisle where like parents are with their kids. Am I gonna get funny looks? Like, why are you in like the kids section? Like,
Right.
so that was always more where I was self-conscious about it, but it was never like something where I felt like anybody was directly like, hey, you're silly for liking Lego, like, or like this makes you uncool. So I never really cared like that.
I see what you're saying. That was interesting to hear how kind of like your friend kind of got out of Lego before you did and how that kind of like made you think about it, I guess. Or
Yeah, I wonder if other people have that experience because when you're growing up, it's like you start to get into other things. Like, I think my friend maybe got into like, I don't know, started listening to like alternative music or something, or maybe I don't even remember now. Like, just got into different like types of TV shows or video games or just like things that like boys get into when they get into like middle school.
yeah.
So for me, I was still like Lego is the coolest thing in the world. Like, what are you talking about? I want
Right.
to play with Lego all the time.
I think there is something to be said there for like having other people like around you who are enjoying the same thing that you are to kind of keep you invested in it. There's something about having that shared interest that really I think plays a big role in whatever hobby or passion you have as well.
Absolutely. Like, being in the Lego community and having all of these friends that I have made through from all over the world, that's helped sustain my interest because there's always somebody to be talking about with something. And now, like being in the LAN, it's like Lego is a regular part of my life. I hardly go more than a couple days without touching a brick,
Yeah.
so it's just there all the time.
Exactly. No, I feel you. And like I can definitely like attest to that as well because with more like a bit of a different example, but I'm an artist as well, and for the past 3-ish years, I was hardly doing any art compared to what I was doing before that because I had moved from where I was, and my art friends had also all moved to different places. So when I moved to where I am now, I didn't have any in-person art friends, so I didn't have anybody to do it with to say compare our like share our work with each other and just kind of have that kind of friends with those similar interests. So it very much I lost the motivation to do that until recently where I made a bunch more art friends and now I've gotten much more back into it. And I think the same goes for a lot of people with Lego. Their friends get out of it at an early age, so then they feel like they're kind of alone with it. And it's like there's no one to share the enjoyment with anymore necessarily. And I think that plays a big role in Dark Ages or whatever it may be.
It does. It does. Like, I've talked to like older AFOLs, and they've said how like one of the things that they would do is, and this is not my firsthand experience, obviously, but I did a little bit of this with my friends. You didn't always have the same sets, so you'd bring sets over to each other's houses and you'd
Oh,
play together. There'd be that sort of like collaboration, where it's like we're gonna play with our Lego together. So yeah, for kids who are maybe not having somebody to play with, or as you start to grow up and you don't have somebody to like share that hobby with, I could totally see where that's where you start to lose that interest if you don't feel like you have that community. But I'm glad to hear that you're getting back into your artwork. I mean,
thank you.
you're welcome. That's a really important skill I think that you should just like hone and continue working with.
Definitely. I'm very excited about it. And I really want to, I've dabbled with it before, but I very much want to practice getting very good at Lego Blender animation because it's so cool. I've loved the explosion of that in the past like 2-3 years.
Yeah, no, that really would be awesome to see you make some animations. That So you said you would be making like Lego animation?
Yeah, I mean other stuff too, like 2D as well. But one of the things
Yeah.
I really want to focus on is like the Lego animation, akin to like the Lego Movie and what people have been doing recently with like with like Preston Mutunga doing like the scene for Spider-Verse and things like that.
Gosh, yeah, that was awesome. I love that scene.
It's so funny when I saw. I mean, I knew the Lego scene was coming because there was like a press release about it, which I think was really silly.
Yes.
But
Yep.
like I remember, like I knew it was coming, but when I saw it, I was like, huh. That looks like really like the style of animation looked really familiar, and I was like, it almost looks like they're using the add-on for like animating the faces called Mecha Face. I was like, but they can't. No, it's a studio. Like they'd be using something else, like they did for the Lego Movie. And then I found out it was him using Blender and all that, and I was
That's
like, oh my
awesome.
god, I knew it. But yeah, it was very cool.
The things that you only pick up on if you're an animator.
Right, literally, there were definitely a handful of those things. That movie was like so many cool things I
That
love
movie was
coming
incredible.
together.
Honestly, so good.
Lego needs to make Spider-Verse sets. I'm just saying. The first one was a huge hit. The second one was bigger. The third one, come on, guys, you have one more chance.
It's like an untapped market. Like they
It
would,
is.
yeah, 100% would make a
Definitely.
ton of money.
Anyways, though, so
Yeah.
I was going to ask. So if Lego was going to start focusing on teens more, like they have with this whole Adults Welcome campaign, what do you think they could do to cater to teens more?
Make the sets free. I don't know. I don't ever remember having I don't ever remember having money for Lego when I was a teen. No, maybe like more affordable price points, but I feel like teens probably love the botanical collection. Like what if you did some smaller botanical stuff that like teens would be into? I don't know. What do teens like these days? Maybe like music artists, like, but then
Yeah.
that does kind of tap into, does it go against brand values? I think, again, anime. I think doing some anime stuff would really bring in teens.
Definitely.
Teens love their anime. Maybe more like video game genres, not just like, Super Mario and Animal Crossing, which maybe have younger audiences, younger or older.
More relevant topics is kind of
More
what you're
relevant
saying,
topics,
right?
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's a lot of stuff for kids and there's a lot of stuff that adults like. I don't think there's this or there's stuff that teens like that are not being presented in a teen-friendly way.
Interesting.
Maybe some more like mid-size Star Wars sets that are less of a toy and more of a display, but not like a UCS or Ultimate Collector Series type of display. Same thing with like
Yeah.
Marvel, Star Wars, Harry Potter. I said Star Wars twice. DC, Batman, like those sort of like evergreen like fandom type topics. But then branch out, bring in more stuff. I think that BTS was an attempt to bring in more of a teen audience. Like there are
Right.
probably teenagers who just like BTS and bought that set because they like BTS.
I think the majority of them are teenagers. So yeah,
Yep.
definitely. I agree there. I think that's one thing that I've heard quite a lot of people say, and I do think so myself as well, is more relevant topics, whether that be movies, video games, TV shows, whatever it is. I think Lego can do their own original things as well to cater to teens, something not necessarily doing Bionicle again, but something with that vibe to it. But I think
Yes.
if we're not talking about them doing their own thing, definitely more things that are more relevant in pop culture. I feel
Right.
like, once again, I've said this a million times, Avatar: The Last Airbender sets. Just saying, that thing's never
That would
not
appeal
relevant.
to everybody. That would just
Everyone.
like everyone would want every Avatar set. I know I would.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of the things that teens are into now, I feel like, tend to appeal to more than just the teen audience anyways. That's the thing.
Yep.
Music artists, shows that are like timeless like that, whether they be newer or older, things like that. I know there's this mock builder who I met recently at the UK convention. His name is, I have a sticker right here. It's Axidroid.
Oh,
And
I know Axidroid. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
know him, but I've seen Axidroid's work.
yeah, and he has this amazing
great.
Appa build from Avatar: The Last Airbender
Yes.
that genuinely looks like it could be a 18 plus set. And I just looked at that and I was like, literally slap that in a box, sell it for 150. That is a perfect set right there for many different demographics.
Yep. Would be I mean, that would be something like kids could be or teens could be like, that's hey, I want this for my birthday, like, or I'm saving up for my job to buy Appa. Like that would be totally something. And even like you said, like that could be something that could be like a one-off. I'm not a big Lego fan, but hey, I just want to buy
Right.
that one set. But so,
Exactly.
like, people probably bought like the one BTS set, so that's something that they could definitely do to draw in more.
All they need is the gateway drug Lego set, and then it's all over.
That's literally what it is.
But yeah, no, I think I like what you said there as well about like mid-scale sets that are still maybe less toys but more display pieces. because I think that is a big one. Once again, it's teens not having a lot of money for stuff, but still wanting something cool that feels substantial, you know, that
Mm-hmm.
they can like mess around with, but looks really good just sitting there as well for when they have to do other things.
Totally.
And I like that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you do think there is any way, what do you think would be a good way of stopping TFOLs from going into Dark Ages? Do you think it's something like what we just talked about, or something else?
I think that it's really difficult to think about it. I know that a lot of adults there, are part of like Lego user groups, and there really aren't any groups like that for teenagers. I
Right.
think that you'd have it would be a really big problem to try to create groups specifically for teens. Um, I know something that some lugs have done is like when kids want to join lugs, like they have the parent be involved in that way. But maybe like having some sort of like community around that for like kids, for teenagers to be involved with. I think creating sets that teens would like to, like we said before, like certain topics that are more relevant. I think at a certain point, like it's almost inevitable. It's almost
Really?
inevitable. Well, yeah, because I think that you just get into things that are more of a priority than Lego, than a collectible. There's just other stuff going on. So I don't know. I think maybe it'll start to even out after a while, like as they continue to make newer sets that are about more relevant topics. As you have kids that grew up with Ninjago that are still into it as teenagers and
Hmm.
beyond. Maybe it'll just start to even out, and we will see more TFOLs. But I don't know.
So
I'm
kind of like a
sorry, I don't have a
natural.
better answer for you.
No, you're all good. It's definitely a difficult one, and I think what you said there about it kind of being like kind of a natural progression that maybe of like most kind of going that way, but then maybe coming back to it in time. And one thing that I have heard people say before, which I agree with, is it's okay to take a break from it as well. Like if it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't feel like your thing, it's not a
Totally.
cult. We're not forcing you to stay into it, you know? Like
Agreed.
definitely. And I do think Lego's been getting better with what you said there about like the sets that more cater towards that kind of audience, as well as with more relevant things like D&D. I think that's great. And if they
Yeah.
continue to do things in that world, I think that'll definitely be good. And just more things akin to that, I think is
Mm-hmm.
definitely, you hit
Totally.
the nail on the head there. Okay, now here's a question I was wondering. So, with most Lego releases, we do hear about them, we tend to hear about them early. Now, you were talking about on one of your interviews that when you were younger, you didn't have the internet, well, nobody had the internet to look up the
Right.
sets or all that. It was more just like you see it in the catalog or you see it in the
Yep.
store as you walk in and you're like, "Oh, there's that new thing." So, I wanted to ask you, do you think that with the whole deal now with the internet being as advanced as it is,
Mm-hmm.
that things like leaks and rumors coming early kind of diminish the fun and excitement around new releases? And do you think there'd be more excitement and I guess intrigue in the things coming out if it was more like how it was before, with just seeing things in catalogs or just happening to stumble across them or things like that, or just waiting for that
Yeah.
time where the catalog's releasing this day of the week, this month, I'm going to wait for that and then look through it and see all the new stuff at once?
I think there'd definitely be more of that intrigue and like that surprise element. I remember as a kid, like we would get the Lego Shop at Home catalog, and that would be often where I'd see like, oh wow, look at this new set that's coming out. Like I would have never have seen it before then.
Yeah.
So there's definitely more of an element of surprise that way. But I do think that with the Ambassador Network, with a lot of the influencers out there, not even people who are just in the Ambassador Network, but who buy the sets early, like there's a lot of hype. Like kids today, they see it all in social media, and adults in general too. So I think that the hype is there. I think that the hype continues to build. It's almost like, I don't know about you, but I noticed like with the D&D reveal yesterday, I saw nothing but D&D on my feed. Like that's what it was. So
Yeah.
it does get a little bit like that, where it's like they have those reveal dates, and then it's just like you can't, if you're looking at it, you can't get away from it. So to touch on like the leaks, the rumors, the stuff that we're not really sure is coming, that can, that builds hype in a different way. But I'd rather personally just see like the official release. So I don't know. It's different. I think it's hard for me to say because it's a different world than when I was a kid, and
Yeah.
the way that I used to get my information about new sets, was just that either like word of mouth or just like seeing it in the catalogs. So
I see. Do you still find it like as exciting nowadays with finding out about it like online more compared to like back then when you'd find it out from say a catalog or a friend or something like that?
Yeah, depends what it is. More exciting in the way too, where it's like, sometimes I would see like here's a brand new big set that was revealed, and it was either, oh, I'm never going to be able to get this because it's too expensive, or I have to wait until Christmas, and that's not for like 7 months or however long it was.
Yeah.
So now it's more like, oh, if I really like this thing, I could maybe use my adult money for it. It doesn't happen all the time,
No.
but I think it's still expensive. But yeah, so there's a different. It's still just as exciting. I will say that feeling of picking up a new Lego set and one that you're really excited to build, it's just as exciting as it was when you were a kid.
Okay, that's cool to hear. I like that because I've definitely heard a lot of discussion about that topic before. And I was curious what you thought about that because I specifically heard you talking about that on like a live stream you were on. And that reminded me of when I was like about 8 years old and looking through one of the Lego catalogs with my oldest Lego friend who I'm still friends with today. And I remember looking through it and seeing like the new Ninjago sets from like Rebooted when they brought the theme back after they quote unquote canceled it. And it's once again, I was a kid who was very much not on the internet at all until much later. So I never had access to that stuff, even though you could technically find it there. And I just remember the excitement of looking through with him and being like, oh, look at this set, look at this character. What's this character doing here? What's this? Oh, that looks amazing. And I feel like for me personally, I definitely do miss like not hearing about I miss not hearing about things super early or like not seeing preliminary images or whatever. I do personally like just the boom, here it is kind of excitement of it. But yeah, like and especially like the physical feel of like catalogs and seeing it like that, that's an aspect to it as well.
Yeah, I see what you're saying there, that there was that excitement of poring over the catalog and looking at the new thing.
Yeah.
You reminded me of like one thing that I've noticed is I kind of feel like when you actually do get a set and you build it, there's not really surprises anymore.
Right.
Like, we used to just see the pictures in the catalog that Lego would show us. Maybe if you went to the store, you looked at the box, but you don't see like that's not the same as like really getting in there and seeing what's going on in the set. Today, with the content creators and everything, like we show you everything that the set has to offer. And you could watch like 16 different videos and you'll see Easter eggs throughout the build, details that you can't necessarily see from the box art. So by the time you've gotten the set, like for example with Rivendell, like by the time I built Rivendell, which I mean is still probably my favorite Lego set, I knew everything there was to know about that set. There were no surprises and there were a lot of things within Rivendell that probably would have been surprises if I had just seen like the catalog image. So
fair enough.
Yeah, there's definitely something to be said for that.
I didn't think about that aspect, and you make a really good point there because there's like the Ninjago City sets.
Yeah.
Those are like filled with tiny
Filled with
details
Easter
and all
eggs.
that.
Yep.
And I bought Ninjago City Gardens like back when it first came out, and I still haven't built it. But I've like I've made sure to like not look at any reviews of that because I know it has like a bunch of little
Easter
references.
eggs.
So I think I think it's nice so that people now do have the option to either just purposefully not look at that stuff to keep the surprise for themselves. Or for themselves, or if they really want to know everything they're getting, they can also access that information. It's nice that there's kind of the duality of that,
Absolutely.
So you mentioned before that as a kid, you were more drawn to the vintage sets. How come?
So kind of like going off what you said with like the catalogs, I used to have the catalogs, the little things that were included in the sets that I got as a kid, and I still would like look at them even after these sets had been retired, and I used to just see things that were not available on shelves anymore. And then when the internet did get started, I would look at like the websites that were around at the time, and they would show you like the archives. These are all the sets that were released in each year, like brickset.com, like early on. And I used to just like, because I was a nerd, I would look at and I would do research. I would look through the Bricklink catalog. I would always know what had been released, and I could instantly see like this castle stuff that once was around was much more my interest than like the stuff that was available when I was a kid. So I think it was just that natural progression, like just like doing the research and like seeing what had only been released not that long ago. At the time, it was like, oh my god, like we're talking like early 2000s, and like I thought 1995 was like decades ago, but now I'm looking back and I'm like, yeah, I have sets from 10 years or more in my collection. So
yeah, I see what you're saying though. I really like how you said that you just felt like those older sets appealed to you more, like versus what was out at the time. And I think there's really something to be said there about like kids do still enjoy older stuff and like different types of things, not just what's hot right now or whatever the current trends are. I really think that's very interesting there. You were just drawn to the more classic stuff. And you hear people in a lot of fields like that with music and all that. It's like they're more into the more classic side of whatever world they're in.
I don't have a ton of nostalgia for the Lego sets that were out when I was a kid. After the color change, so after everything changed from old light gray to dark bluish
The
gray, or
mass color change.
the color change, which is I think around 2003. Honestly, a lot of the sets that came out after that color change, up until I went into my gray age, were not great.
Yeah.
I wasn't into the design and everything. I think like some of that early 2000s stuff, like the Orient Expedition, was really cool. The early Harry Potter sets when they were still the yellow minifigures. The old school Star Wars had some cool stuff. Alpha Team was great. The Knights Kingdom, like I said, like there was some cool stuff from that era. But then once they changed the colors, it started to get weird.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have a lot of nostalgia for that.
That's really cool to hear. Now, my question is, do you have so what I call is secondhand nostalgia. So I have that for things like Bionicle, which were around when I was growing up. But the thing is, I was born in 2005, so that was already like halfway through Bionicle's lifespan. And so I'd like see some kids playing with it, but I was too young to properly get into it. So I have like secondhand nostalgia from it, from now looking into it and being like, oh, that looked like it was so cool. And I'm feeling other people's nostalgia. Do you have that for like classic castle themes and things like that?
Totally. I have secondhand nostalgia for like the classic Space and Castle stuff, 80s, 90s. Like, they had like the Lego Mania magazine with like the comics in the 90s. There were like clubs that would, you could join the Lego club and you got the magazine.
Right.
There was just like a lot of cool stuff. I have a good friend, Obi-Wan Kenobrix, who went to some like official Lego Builders event, and he got like a certificate that said he was like a junior master builder or something. And he got like a fake like construction hat that has like the Lego logo, like plastic. They don't do anything like that, where it's like they would give you like cool little prizes. So there's a lot of secondhand nostalgia for like what the experience of being like a kid back then was like. They also, I don't know if you know, but those vintage the instructions would have like a little corner that you could clip off, which would have like points on it, and it was essentially like what we have for like insiders points today. But you would actually have to like clip off a little like a coupon basically from your instructions, and you could save them up to redeem for like free sets.
No way. That's so cool. That is so Lego. Please bring that back. I beg of you.
Yeah, which it's funny because like now, like I really like would hope that people didn't use that, because you'd have to actually cut your instructions.
Fair enough.
It's funny because most of the instructions that I buy or that I find are intact. I hardly ever see any that they've actually used them. So I wonder how many people actually used that program.
Yeah, fair enough. You make a good point there. That's interesting that you mentioned that as well, because I know Lego had like a lot of those things back in that time. And the most recent example of something like that I saw was in, I think it was like 2021, probably, something like that. A small Ninjago set that I got. It was called Woo's Battle Dragon. And in that set, it had like a separate piece of paper that was a like kids go free to Legoland kind of thing. And I was like,
I used to do that.
But like they did that recently, and I was like, whoa, in a set? Like I didn't know that they did that anymore. That was something really cool.
Yeah, I always used to get those, and I was like, I want to go to Legoland, and like my mom was like, yeah, cool, but it's in California, we're not going. Like we're on the other, we're on the opposite coast, so getting a free kids admission to Legoland really didn't help us.
Yeah, it's not a free travel ticket.
It's not even close. It would be what was admission to Legoland, probably like $20 at the time. Like that was not like you were saving a lot of money.
Right.
I don't know how much it was. I'm just guessing.
Oh no, but yeah, no, definitely. But I think Lego had a lot of really cool programs like that back in those days, and I think it'd be cool if they brought some of that back.
Yep.
And my question is as well, what are your thoughts on like them kind of doing a lot more of rebooting of old sets or concepts, things like the Lion Knight's Castle, the Galactic Explorer, the Basil the Batlord minifigure, things like that?
I think that it's all great. I think that there's a lot of people who will probably tell you that, oh, we should just bring these, themes back entirely. And I disagree. I think that they had their time, they had their run, and now they're like a little piece of like the Lego history. I think what we're getting is incredible, and I even like 5-10 years ago never imagined we would have stuff like this, where you can just buy a set that has that feel of like a vintage set, but it's new. I think that they're doing a great thing with it. I would not want it to get overblown to the point where it's like, you have to feel like you have to buy every vintage set again. Like I have a lot of the vintage sets because I like those. I like what they're doing.
It's like a little glimpse of the past. Like here's what it could look like now, but they don't have to commit to doing the entire thing again, because I've heard that like that might not do well now with today's audience. So.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Right, right. Like, you're not going to be able to, like, the Eldorado Fortress, people are going to buy it because they know Lego, they're into Lego's history, like, that's a cool set for them. You're not going to have, like, an entire Pirates line that's, like, a reboot of a classic Pirates theme, and then people are going to, like, oh, yeah, I want that. I don't think it's there.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I understand that. I'd say we can move on to our viewer-submitted questions now. All right, so our first viewer-submitted question is by Forstud, who asks if you're coming to Brick Fair again.
Wonderful question. Yes, for stud. I will be at Brick Fair, Virginia in August, and I look forward to seeing you there.
Nice. All right. So now we got questions from both team members from Lego Masters Season 3, Ethan the Artisan and Cool Guy Damo too.
Who are those guys?
I know, yeah.
I've never
I saw
heard of them.
once.
I don't watch that show.
Yeah, no. Yeah, definitely.
Well, I guess I'll give them the courtesy of responding. What did they ask?
Exactly, yeah. Well, we got a question from Ethan who asks, yeah, I actually asked two. So the first one is, what is your favorite Lego color?
So this guy comes in, and I don't know who he is, and he asked me two questions.
The audacity, honestly.
The audacity. My favorite... Okay, I'm sorry. I can't give you one answer because it changes all the time. I have a couple. So I'm really into, like, the earth tones. So, like, we're going to give you some runners-up. Like, I like olive green. I use a lot of that. Sand green is cool, too. I usually say my favorite color is medium nougat. I love medium nougat. It's just a really great color for details. I think it's much more realistic for like wood than like reddish brown. So that's my favorite like earthy toned color. My favorite like colorful color, I guess, if you're gonna pick like a color. Oh, that's so hard because there are so many that I like. I like dark turquoise. I like probably lavender. Medium lavender medium lavender is probably my favorite like colorful color.
Yeah, definitely.
So medium nougat, medium lavender. Oh, but my favorite, here we go, because it's a 3-part question now. My favorite retired color. My favorite color that you can never get any more new because it was short-lived and they didn't make enough pieces. Medium green.
What does that look like? Hold on. Do you have I can look it up, but like...
I do, but where did I put it? Hold on. This is medium green.
Oh, that's such a good color. What?
It's beautiful. It's honestly a very short-lived color. And I used a lot of my medium green pieces to do the landscaping in my new Enchanted Forest build, A Visit to Shroom's Wine Cottage.
Nice.
So, yeah, that one in the landscaping has a lot of medium green, and the old light green as well, mixed in with some newer greens that I thought would complement it.
That's cool. I like that. All right, and his second question is, what is your favorite Lego piece?
The 5x5 leaf element, which I have... Hold on. You know what it is.
Probably. Just don't know by name. Oh, like the main big leaf element.
Like the main big leaf element. It's a 5x5 stud. Classic. Been around since the early 90s, maybe late 80s. And it's been now in a variety of colors. I almost always use it as a starting point for my trees and leaves, and then I build off of it and add different leaf elements to make it look even more detailed.
Nice.
It's an incredibly versatile piece. I'm sure there's a lot of things you can use it for besides leaves. I still always use it as leaves, but it's just my favorite element that I've always just, it's been so cool.
That's awesome. I love that. All right, now we got the question from the other Lego Master guy that I don't know if anyone's ever heard of.
I don't know. Yeah, he's
Cool
he's
Guy
all right.
Domo too. Yeah, he says. Well, he asks, "Who's your favorite Fabuland character?"
So probably just like the classic elephant. I like good old Edward Elephant. He's great. And then the older versions had different eyes, but I like the elephants. I also like the pigs. So the Fabuland pigs and elephants are my favorite. And another one that I like a lot is the fox, Freddy Fox.
Ooh. Yeah.
He's cool.
Fabuland really felt like the Lego Animal Crossing before Lego Animal Crossing.
Before Animal Crossing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's so cool. Classic theme. Love Fabuland.
I remember I got a Fabuland figure from like a little toy shop that had like a lot of secondhand Lego, but
that's fun.
I like, it was the first time I'd ever seen it, and it was like the red monkey with like a blue shirt, and I was like, what is this? I just was like, what is this thing?
They're very cute. Unusual, but very cute.
Very. He also asked another question, which is, what are your goals as a creator?
To create. My goals as a creator are to just continue kind of like doing what I'm doing, to reach more people, to build more mocks, to get to a point where I feel like a lot of what people know me for is like my builds more so than some of the set content that I've been kind of focusing on lately. But that's one of my goals for this year, is to just do more creative builds, do more set upgrades, to do more things that inspire people to be creative. And maybe some of that will involve branching out into YouTube a little bit more.
I like that. That's really good. Kind of forming like your own identity with your builds and all that kind of thing, right?
Absolutely.
I like that. And finally, we have a question from Oaktown Bricks, who asks, "What is your favorite and least favorite Lego theme, and why?"
This is tough.
It is, isn't it?
So my favorite Lego theme, I'll give you a currently. So I like the Icon series. So I think that the Icon series I love because it allows Lego to do one-off sets. They don't have to do whole themes. Not a huge investment as far as like, I have to buy every set within a theme. So Icons, I just think, you never know what you're going to get, and it could be anything. And, there's something for everyone within Icons.
Definitely.
My least favorite, like Hero Factory, maybe. I'm not a fan of the stuff that was like, weird. Not big into Bionicle, but I appreciate it a little bit more. Hero Factory to me, just that might as well have been like Creo or like Connects or something that's definitely not Lego. It's just it's go buy an action figure. I don't know. I don't Hero Factory. It's a big no. I'm also not big into Technic, but I appreciate it and I see its value and where it belongs.
Definitely.
But I would hate to have to build a Technic set.
No, absolutely not. Technic absolutely has its place and it's necessary, but just doing a full set that is I do not understand the people who enjoy that, but good on them. Like,
I can understand it if you're into like engineering and like the technology and stuff.
Right.
Like, there's something there, but for me, it's just there's a lot of patience. It uses different mind muscles than
It does.
Lego system
and finger muscles.
and finger muscles.
Yeah, it like whenever I have to build a set and like there's an extensive Technic part, that's like always my least favorite part of it.
I hate it. Yep.
Yeah. But no, God, that cut deep with Hero Factory. I'm someone who grew up with it. I love that
sorry.
theme. I'm so offended deeply. Honestly, how could you dare have a different
Podcast
opinion?
canceled.
Yes, exactly. Guys, I can't take this emotional strain anymore. We're going to have to stop the episode. Podcast is going on break for half a year. Anyways. So you mentioned earlier that your girlfriend at the time, fiance now, was the one who actually encouraged you to kind of start your TikTok. And
Yes.
I think I just wanted to ask, so I'm assuming you were pretty open about like your love for Lego from the beginning, or were you not?
Like once we kind of started officially dating as like boyfriend and girlfriend, I showed her the Lego room. I've told that story 100 times about how I told her, I got to show you something in my basement so you can learn a little more about me. And she was like, oh, great. What's in the basement? And it turned out just to be Lego. She was like, oh, well, that's not what I was expecting. I didn't get murdered. But she was like, yeah, this is cool and cute. And okay, if this is what you're into, sure. I don't think she ever expected me to expand it as much as I did once I started doing social media. And she's probably like, okay, like this is a lot, but she's just, that's who I am. So, got a deal.
Yeah, no, that's really amazing. And I like that she was the one who kind of like supported you with that like initial decision to start that, which I mean, look at where you've come now from that.
Yeah.
And I think I want to ask, like, do you think it's important for people to be open about things like that with anyone they're interested in or their partners or whatever, like from an early like time?
Totally. I think that it's important just with anything, not just Lego, but like your interests and hobbies, and you got to be able to share that with the person who you think might become your partner, but you maybe don't want to lead with it. I don't think that it's like a first date question unless, you for whatever reason you connect over some sort of mutual nerdy hobby or whatever.
Right.
Like if that comes up naturally, if you're just having like a regular date getting to know each other, you don't maybe want to be like, hey, guess what? I have 1 million Lego sets in my basement. Like that might be a bit of a turnoff. So, you want to like see if that's the type of person that you can trust. If it's the type of person that isn't going to be like a judgy or just, you got to see what the vibe is in the relationship. And I think if somebody also is going to get to a point where it's like, oh, like, you're into this, like, nah, not for me, I don't like you, then they're probably not for you anyway. So
Exactly.
No,
I think
gotta
that's
be careful.
Yeah, that's really good. Like, I mean, I definitely think I agree with what you said there. Like, unless you're in like the situation for it, maybe don't lead with, "Hi, so I have a chronic addiction to Lego bricks."
It's
But
not something you lead with. It's not icebreaker conversation.
yeah, no, but no, I think it like what you said there is really like really accurate, I think, are important. And as well, like, it's also just very important to have, I guess, people that support you in what you enjoy in any way, whether it be like people you're interested in romantically or family or friends or whatever. Just having that support there is very important as well, I think.
Absolutely agreed. Like, you want to be able to feel like you can share your hobby with the people that are closest with you, and it shouldn't be something that you have to hide or be ashamed of.
Definitely. So, the final question of the episode is, do you have any advice for TFOLs?
Yeah. So, first thing I would say is just be a teenager. So, Lego's great. Lego will always be there. I think that there's so many other fun things and opportunities that you can do while you're a teenager, and you wouldn't want to let Lego hold you back in that way. On the other hand, don't be ashamed if it is something that you're really interested in and you do want to like work on your skills with. Don't feel discouraged if other people find out that you're into Lego and they want to make fun of you because of it. Like, they can go kick rocks. Like, who cares like what they think? I would just keep being yourself, but at the same time, don't miss out on other opportunities. Just don't let all of this Lego tie you down. You could do it when you're an adult. You could always get back into it later. Another big piece of advice is that if you're a teenager and Lego releases a line of sets for something that you're interested in, like if they do Lord of the Rings, buy every set, make it a priority. Even if you're not going to build them, like buy every set and put it away for your future self. Like you won't regret it. Like just find a way to raise the money. Like don't ever be like, yeah, I'm really kind of into this, but I don't know. Just buy it. Just buy every set, put it away for the future.
You'll thank yourself later. Exactly.
You'll thank yourself later.
All right. I think that's really fantastic. I especially loved what you said about just be a teenager. I think that's a really important one that people just continue to forget the longer time goes on,
Yep. Because you only get this time. They say it's the greatest years of your life, and it could be. You never get this time back. You might have regrets someday. I think that we always regret the things that we didn't do more than we regret the things that we do.
Yeah.
And Lego is something that you can always do in the future, unless Lego releases more Lord of the Rings sets and you don't buy them and they retire and then they go for hundreds and hundreds of dollars and then you can't buy them at retail price anymore.
Is
so
there some
Lego
personal
releases,
trauma there?
This is personal trauma. So if they do a one-off thing like Animal Crossing, maybe you're really into Animal Crossing and they might never do Animal Crossing again. Buy every set, put it away for your future self. You won't regret it.
Definitely. I think that's good. Be a teenager and prepare for your future Lego loving self.
Be a teenager and prepare for after the dark ages. Even it's an investment. Even if you don't build them ever, you don't want you could sell them down the line. And you'll make money.
Exactly. Well, I love that. I think that's absolutely fantastic. And thank you so much for coming on the show, man. It was absolutely amazing to have you. And before we end the episode, do you have any social media or other things of the sort that you would like to plug?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Doodle, for having me on the show. But you can follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. It is Matticus Bricks across all platforms. Just go and search for me. I'm pretty easy to find. My profile picture is a picture of me in my Lego room, so you can't miss it. But yeah, I would totally appreciate it if you go and give me those follows and stay tuned for my Lego content.
Sounds fantastic. All right, well, thank you all so much for listening. It means the world, and I hope you enjoyed. Links to some of the things and people we talked about will be in the description as always. New episodes now release once every 2 weeks on Tuesdays for TFOL Talk Tuesday, and you can find updates, announcements, and more regarding the podcast over on my Twitter or Instagram, both of which are @DoodleBricks. Anyways, that's all for now, and we'll see you all later.